and no pictures. That's the unabridged version. In this book, it's the history of the world. Now, if you're going to do the history of the world, it's going to take more than 1,300 pages to do a complete history. But he does a pretty credible stab at it. And he stabs literally. He stabs certain people and individuals as he goes along. What we want to look at is page 1,247. He's explaining what the ideal situation is. The ideal situation would be the Democratic and Republican parties should be almost identical, so that the American people can throw the rascals out at any election without leading to any profound or extensive shifts in policy. So we threw out the Democrats, we put in Dwight Eisenhower. Then we threw out Dwight Eisenhower, we put in the Democrats. Then we threw out the Democrats and put in the Republicans. And then we back and forth, and since the days of Franklin Roosevelt, we have had no person in the presidency that would follow the Constitution. None. Oh, we say he was a great conservative. Ronald Reagan was a great conservative. Nonsense. He spent more money in his day than any president prior to him. Is spending money a conservative? Is that a measure of conservativeness? And he never followed the Constitution any better than the other people back then. So don't give me Ronald Reagan for an example unless you can produce evidence to show that he followed the Constitution. This objective, stated so clearly on page 1,247, is now in place. Some authors call this the two-party death grip. I thought that's a catchy phrase. We'll put that on the screen. There are two political caricatures that I thought would help us to understand this. This is one of them. Doesn't make any difference which one you vote for. You're going to get a program that's just the same in the long run. They scream at each other. They yell at each other. They jump up and down. They hate the other people. And yet, when they start voting and promoting, they both go down the same road to one world order of socialism. Here's another political caricature that helps to illustrate it. I was sitting in the Houston airport, May the 27th, 2006, and I noticed the USA Today page had this picture, and so I stole it and brought it home. Now, here we have a donkey and an elephant sitting in the Culture of Corruption Bar and Grill. Okay? They both entered the Culture of Corruption Bar and Grill, and the political artist, he has the elephant speaking to the donkey, and the elephant says, "Fancy meeting you here." And the donkey says, "Oh, shut up." Now, what are they drinking? See right over here? Today's special, Jefferson on the rocks. And you can be assured that's Thomas Jefferson. And they are open for business. Any other details there I didn't pick out. But these political caricatures are just one person's opinion. But I think they did a good job of illustrating the situation advocated by Carroll Quigley. We want the Democrats and the Republicans both to be pulling the same direction. So it doesn't matter which one's in office, we will still be working toward one world order of socialism. What's a politician? A scheming opportunist seeking personal or partisan gain, as distinguished from a statesman, which suggests able, far-seeing, principled conduct of public affairs. So we have a statesman or a politician. So some people, they think that people that take up a political office that are elected are politicians. That's not a good use of the term. Just because you were elected, you're not a politician. Is Ron Paul a politician or a statesman? He's a statesman. He does not care what other people think about his voting. If he votes alone, he will still vote what he believes to be right, and it will be founded on constitutional principles. That's a statesman. Whereas the other group, the politicians, they're going to try and gain political power or some other power, some selfish motives. Let us teach our people the futility of voting for the lesser of two politicians. Now, we've gone through this before, and I'm going to try it again. Let's grasp the significance of this. If you vote for evil, you will always have evil. We have to finally just say, I'm not going to vote for the lesser of two evils ever again. I did that about 3 years ago. That's That's when I finally came to this conclusion. How can we break the cycle, the two-party death grip, if we keep voting for the lesser of two evils? Now, I scratched out evil because one of my friends was offended when I talked about President George Bush and used this phrase. I said, you know, we have to vote between the lesser of two evils. And he says, that offends me. He said, my president's not evil. But 6 months later, he said it was okay to use evil. If you went to the polls, say tomorrow, and you were going to vote for President of the United States. Now, I chose these two people because we have a little track record on them. We don't know all of their life. I wished we did, but we know enough that we can make some judgment decisions here. If we went to the polls tomorrow to vote for President of the United States, and these were the two candidates, and if we were committed to voting for the lesser of two evils, I'm not anymore. But if we were, have you ever heard people say that? Oh, they say, if I don't vote for George Bush, William Clinton might get in. Or if I don't vote for Hillary, somebody else is going to get in. You know, they got this is the argument. They're going to vote for a person not because they're qualified, not because they're statesmen, but because they're afraid that if they don't cast their vote for this certain individual who is evil, that a greater evil will take over. So we're going to have a little test now, and we're going to call it the lesser of two politicians test. And so no one's offended by calling either of these men evil. We're going to call them both politicians. That's fair, isn't it? They're politicians. Now, if we were going to try and pick the lesser of the two politicians, that would be the desirable thing. We want a statesman. Well, the lesser politician would be closer to being a statesman. Let's put the test questions on the screen. Now, I wrote 12. This was for my own interest about, a year and a half ago. I wrote 12 test questions. I thought, well, if I'm going to try and understand how to get away from voting for the lesser of two evils, I need a test. I need to see something tangible. So I started scratching them down with my ballpoint pen. Which man, now don't answer them out loud, and you may have a different feeling. All I have is the newspaper and the television and the magazines. I don't have any hidden secret way of learning their background. But you have the same opportunity to see their record from the newspapers and television and so on. Which man encouraged the lesser number of illegal aliens to enter the United States? Now, somehow with your fingers on your knee or something, some way, try to keep track now which way you're voting here. So did you give a score for the left man or the right man? And then we got 12 questions. Okay, which man encouraged the lesser number of illegal aliens to enter the United States? Which man spent the lesser amount of taxpayer dollars unconstitutionally? Which man increased the national debt the lesser amount? Which man advanced the lesser amount of bloated bureaucracy during his administration? Which man sent the lesser amount of American soldiers to serve as world policemen without a congressional declaration of war? Which man told the lesser number of lies to the American people? Which man gave the lesser support to the United Nations and the New World Order? Which man did the lesser damage to the right to bear arms? Which man gave the lesser amount of American military technology to foreign enemies? Which man did the lesser meddling in our socialized government school system? Which man appointed the lesser number of establishment insiders to high positions in our government? Which man encouraged the lesser number of murders of millions of unborn children? Now we could write more questions. That ought to give us a start, though, at choosing the lesser of the two evils if we're going to vote that way. Now, I made my scores as I studied and thought. I didn't write these questions to try and lopside at one man or the other. I just started thinking, what do I want to know about a candidate? Where is he sending the military? Where is he? And I started writing the questions, not based on trying to make it lopsided one way or the other. And here's how I scored them. There was one that I just didn't know the answer. I didn't know who told the most lies. I gave 3 scores to George W. Bush and 8 to this adulterous wretch. Lying, adulterous wretch. And other sins I don't know about. Now, you maybe gave them a different ratio than that. I don't know how you judge them. When you go to vote, you have to judge. Voting is judging. It's judging what you expect that person will do when they're elected to office. And if I were going to have to vote the lesser of two evils, as repulsive as it is to me, I would have to vote for William Jefferson Clinton.